He came home smiling, but when his mom saw the red marks on his tiny wrist, everything changed. What they uncovered would expose a system of silence that's been hurting children for years, and they never expected this mother to fight back. Stay with me, because this story doesn't end where they wanted it to. If you believe every child deserves to be protected, no matter their skin color, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Stories like this deserve to be heard. It was supposed to be just another ordinary afternoon. The sun hung lazily in the sky, soft golden light spilling through the living room windows, catching dust particles as they floated like tiny ghosts in the air. Naomi Brooks stood at the kitchen sink, humming softly to herself as she rinsed off Elijah's favorite cup, the one with the faded superhero decal barely clinging to the plastic. She loved this part of the day. That sacred little window between school ending and the chaos of dinner beginning, where everything in life felt manageable. Then she heard it. The front door bursting open. The quick scuffle of little sneakers on hardwood. "Mommy!" Elijah's joyful shout echoed down the hallway. His backpack, worn from too many playground adventures, bounced wildly on his tiny shoulders as he ran straight into her arms. Naomi laughed and crouched, scooping him into a warm embrace, inhaling the smell of crayons and earth and sunshine. But then, her eyes caught something. Something that didn't belong. Red. Thin, angry red lines curled around his tiny wrist like fingerprints branded in heat. Her smile disappeared as dread curled like a snake in her stomach. "Elijah, what's this?" she whispered, gently lifting his arm. For a brief moment, his bright smile faltered. His mouth twitched. He bit his bottom lip, eyes darting away from hers. With the smallest, most broken voice, he answered, "The nurse. She grabbed me hard. I cried, but she said I was being a baby." Naomi felt something sharp cut through her. Grief, fury, disbelief. She kissed the top of his head, steadying herself. Later that evening, when Daniel walked through the door, tired from his shift at the mechanic shop, Naomi said nothing at first. She simply reached out, took his rough hand, and placed Elijah's wrist into it. Daniel's expression hardened. His fingers traced the bruises, gentle and trembling all at once. "Who did this?" His voice, low and even, was more terrifying than a scream. They didn't sleep that night. Naomi held Elijah close in their bed, as if shielding him from a world she suddenly didn't trust. Daniel paced the floor like a caged animal, eyes red, whispering curses under his breath, planning. The next morning, dressed in clothes that didn't quite hide the exhaustion in their faces, they stood in the principal's office. Naomi spoke first. "I need you to explain to me how my son came home from your school with this on his wrist." Principal Warren looked up from his desk with a kind of smile people wore when they had already decided not to care. "Polished. Rehearsed. Elijah is imaginative," Warren said smoothly. "You know how children are. I'm sure Nurse Palmer was only helping him after he fell. Kids exaggerate." Daniel leaned forward, knuckles white. "Are you saying my son did this to himself?" A pause. A blink. The faintest shrug. Naomi knew then, this wasn't going to be simple. They weren't just up against one person. They were up against a wall. That night, Elijah cried in his sleep, whimpering, flinching every time Naomi tried to stroke his hair. Each sob from her son was like a hammer on her heart. Something terrible had happened. And the truth was only beginning to unravel. The system of silence. Naomi's phone rang 2 days later. It was a number she didn't recognize, and for a second she thought about ignoring it, but something deep in her chest told her to pick up. "Hello." The voice on the other end was soft, hesitant. "Mrs. Brooks? This is Carla Rodriguez. I'm one of Elijah's teachers." Naomi's heart started pounding. "Is Elijah okay?" Silence. Then a deep sigh. "I shouldn't be calling you. They warned us not to. But I just can't pretend anymore. Nurse Palmer has done this before." Naomi's knees gave way, and she sat hard on the kitchen floor. "What are you talking about?" Carla's voice trembled. "She's been rough with Black and Latino kids for years. Elijah's not the first. Complaints have been filed, but they always disappear. Parents get scared. They don't want trouble. The administration, they protect her." The words hit like punches. Naomi's grip tightened on the phone. You mean to tell me they knew? They knew, and they let this happen again. I'm so sorry, Carla whispered. They won't listen to me. They won't protect your son. That night, Naomi told Daniel everything. He stood in the living room, fists clenched at his sides, his whole body vibrating with silent fury. So they expect us to just take it. Let them hurt our son, and shut up about it. The next day, Naomi marched back to the school, demanding access to security footage from the hallway outside the nurse's office. Principal Warren met her at the door, that same polished, empty smile on his face. Unfortunately, there's been a technical issue. The files were corrupted. It happens sometimes, you know how these systems are. A lie. And they both knew it. Naomi could feel the walls closing in. The polite smiles. The hushed conversations that stopped when she entered the room. Teachers who once said hello now avoiding her eyes. Whispers started swirling among the other parents. First one mother, then another, started to speak quietly at pickup time. My son came home with bruises last year. My daughter said she's scared of the nurse. But fear kept them silent. Naomi could see it in their faces, the dread of making noise, of being labeled problem parents, of retaliation. Then, as if things couldn't get worse, Naomi got the email. Elijah Brooks has been suspended for disruptive behavior in class. It was retaliation. Clear as day. Daniel read the email twice before quietly folding his phone in his hands. His voice was calm, steady, and terrifying. They don't want the truth. They want us quiet. But Naomi wasn't going to let them win. She began making calls. First to friends. Then to local advocacy groups. Then to reporters. One reporter, Maya Ellis, young but hungry for the truth, answered Naomi's email almost immediately. They met at a coffee shop, Naomi's hands trembling slightly around a cup she barely sipped from. Maya listened, took notes, nodded carefully. We've had whispers about this school before, she admitted. But no one ever wanted to speak on record. I'll speak, Naomi said firmly. They tried to hurt my child. I won't stay silent. Soon after, a leak. Photos of Elijah's wrist. Anonymous testimonies. Whispers turned into ripples, and ripples into waves. Then the phone calls started coming from other parents. Not all of them wanted to be seen. Not all of them were ready to stand beside Naomi publicly, but they wanted her to know she wasn't alone. And behind the scenes, the school tightened its grip, issuing new memos to teachers, forbidding contact with media. Carla Rodriguez received an official warning. Another parent found herself mysteriously removed from the PTA committee. But Naomi refused to back down. One night, sitting on the edge of Elijah's bed, Naomi watched him sleeping, his small hand curled protectively under his cheek. She pressed her lips to his forehead, whispering a promise only he could hear. They can scare the others. They can call me crazy. But they don't scare me. This wasn't just about Elijah anymore. It was about every child they had tried to silence. And Naomi was going to burn the whole system down before she let them bury her son's pain. The email hit Naomi's inbox on a gray Thursday morning. A single-line subject. Cease and desist, defamation warning. From the law office of Byrne and Caldwell. The kind of email meant to make ordinary people fold, apologize, and disappear. Daniel read it over her shoulder, his jaw clenched so tight Naomi could see the muscle twitching in his cheek. They think they can scare us with paperwork, he said quietly. They don't know who they're dealing with. By now, the story had begun making rounds in local forums, small activist blogs, a few scattered mentions on social media. Just enough attention to make the school nervous, but not enough to truly expose them. Yet, Maya Ellis wasn't giving up either. She called Naomi that same night with an urgent tone. Naomi, I have something. Someone sent me an anonymous file. What is it? Copies of the internal complaints. Emails between Principal Warren and the school board. They knew, Naomi. About everything. Naomi's hand shook as she scrolled through screenshots forwarded to her phone, one by one, documenting ignored complaints, formal letters from concerned parents, even one from a former teacher begging for an investigation 2 years prior. Each one met with the same reply. Handled internally. No further action needed. This wasn't neglect. It was conspiracy. But even as Naomi stared at the damning evidence, she knew that the truth wasn't always enough. She needed power behind her voice. That's when the doorbell rang. Daniel answered, cautious as always, but it wasn't a threat. It was Carla Rodriguez, standing there in the rain, soaked to the bone but with fire in her eyes. "I'm ready," Carla said. "I'll go on record." Naomi stared at her, stunned. "But your job?" "I'm done being afraid." They weren't alone anymore. The days that followed were a blur of phone calls, interviews, late-night strategy meetings at their kitchen table surrounded by mugs of cold coffee and printouts of evidence. Parents once too afraid to speak up started messaging Naomi privately. Some offered anonymous testimonies. A few, mostly mothers of children of color, said they would show up with her if she needed. And then, the break they hadn't dared to hope for. One afternoon, Maya called, nearly breathless. Channel 9. Evening News. They want to run it. Naomi's stomach twisted into knots. This was it. Once it went public, there would be no going back. No hiding. No peace. Their family would be exposed to scrutiny, trolls, angry defenders of the school, thinly veiled racism in comment sections. But behind all of that, truth. The night of the broadcast, Naomi sat on the edge of their worn couch, Elijah curled beside her, his head on her lap. Daniel paced behind them, restless energy vibrating through him like electricity. And then the anchor's voice. A local school faces serious allegations of abuse and cover-up tonight, as one mother refuses to stay silent. Photos of Elijah's bruises on screen. Carla's voice, firm and clear despite visible nervousness. A blurred-out clip of another parent confirming similar abuse. Maya reporting the story with sharp, steady conviction. The phones didn't stop ringing after that. Some were hateful, vicious, predictable. But others were offers of help. An attorney, pro bono. Community organizers. Parents with social media followings ready to amplify the fight. The next morning, Naomi woke up to trending hashtags. Justice for Elijah. Protect our children. Stop the silence. Even national accounts started reposting. The story had broken out of their small town and was now racing across the internet like wildfire. And then came the response they weren't expecting. A knock on the door. This time, it wasn't media or supporters. It was a school board representative. Uninvited. Nervous. Sweating. Mrs. Brooks. "Can we speak privately?" Naomi stood tall in the doorway. "No. Anything you have to say, you can say it here." He hesitated, then swallowed hard. Principal Warren has been placed on administrative leave, pending an independent investigation. Nurse Palmer, as well. It should have felt like victory. It should have felt like relief. But Naomi knew better. "This is about protecting yourselves," she said flatly. "Not protecting the children." His eyes darted away, unable to deny it. The fight wasn't over. That night, sitting in Elijah's room while he drifted to sleep, Naomi whispered another promise. "I'm not just fighting for you anymore, baby. I'm fighting for every kid they thought they could break." The next week, Naomi found herself standing behind a podium at a local community center, with cameras pointed at her and dozens of parents seated before her. "This isn't just about Elijah," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "This is about a system that protects the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable. They expected us to break. They expected us to stay silent." She paused, looking directly into the cameras. They expected the wrong fight. And behind her, one by one, more parents began standing. Not just Black or Latino. Asian parents. White parents. Fathers. Mothers. Teachers. Even Carla, no longer afraid, standing with arms folded across her chest. They didn't just start a complaint. They started a movement. And Naomi knew now. They weren't going to stop until the walls of that broken system came crashing down. Not just for Elijah. For every child they tried to silence. Forever. What started as a mother fighting for her son became a movement fighting for every child's right to safety, dignity, and truth. They tried to cover it up. They tried to scare her into silence. But they forgot one thing. A mother fighting for her child is unstoppable. And now, This fight is no longer hers alone. It's ours. If this story moved you, don't just scroll. Subscribe. Share this video. Let's make sure their fight echoes far beyond this screen. And remember, the system only wins if we stay silent.